Look at the fire in front of you right now. Just an ordinary fire, the kind humans have been sitting around for hundreds of thousands of years. Warm, familiar, predictable. But what if one night 15,000 years ago, it wasn't? And the wildest part, it wasn't a weapon at first, it wasn't a war, it was something much smaller, much quieter. A pile of dirt, a strange white crust on a cave wall, a yellow mineral near a hot spring, and one person, sitting by a fire, who happened to be curious about exactly the wrong combination of ordinary things. What followed involves hunting, social equality, forest collapse. A band of 30 people who suddenly had something nobody else in the world had, and a force that could either drag civilization forward by thousands of years or burn it down before it had a chance to begin. Around 15,000 years ago, humans lived in small mobile bands, 20 to 50 people. No cities, no kings, no governments. People moved with the seasons, carrying everything they owned. Here's the part that surprises people. These societies were, in many cases, remarkably equal. Not perfectly, not all of them, but across mobile foraging groups there was very little hierarchy, very little inherited wealth, and very few permanent rulers, because ruling people who can simply walk away is incredibly difficult. This equality wasn't an accident, it was maintained. Anthropologists documented leveling mechanisms, social habits that punished anyone who tried to rise above the group. A hunter who made an amazing kill and started boasting got mocked gently and persistently until he stopped. These communities learned that letting one person rise too high was dangerous, so they pushed back almost reflexively. Here's why that worked. In a world where everyone has roughly the same weapons and physical strength, no one person can reliably dominate everyone else. If someone overreaches, the group resists, ignores them, or just leaves. Coercion is expensive when the people you're trying to control have legs and somewhere else to be. This is the world Gunpowder would walk into, a world that kept human ambition in check for hundreds of thousands of years, not through morality, but through simple physical limits on what one person could do to another. Now ask yourself what happens when those limits suddenly change. Having an explosion is not the same thing as having gunpowder. The raw materials existed naturally in the landscapes ancient humans lived in, so accidental combinations near fires probably produced sudden flares throughout prehistory. The crack, the flash, the smell, then silence. And then almost certainly the person who saw it walked away, with no framework for what they'd witnessed. Just an accident, something to avoid, not repeat. This is the part that matters most. A hunter-gatherer band has no writing, no guaranteed continuity. If the discoverer dies before passing it on, or the band scatters before the knowledge takes root, it's gone, not delayed. So the discovery isn't one dramatic flash of insight, it's a slow, fragile accumulation. Someone notices a strange crackle in a certain kind of soil, tries it again carefully, shows someone else, and by sheer luck, that knowledge survives one winter, then another. It's not impossible, but it's far harder than most people imagine. Now let's say it survives. The knowledge takes root. What happens next? Almost certainly not war. Not at first. New tools get pointed at whatever problem is most urgent, which for a hunter-gatherer 15,000 years ago, every single day is food. Hunting was brutal, dangerous, unreliable. Bringing down large animals meant coordinating dozens of people, getting close enough with a spear that the animal could just as easily kill you first. Hunts failed constantly. People starved through bad winters. Early gunpowder wouldn't be a weapon you could aim. It's loud, unreliable, and might just send a herd running the wrong way. But it could change coordination. Ancient hunters already used fire to drive herds toward cliffs or rivers. Now imagine a sudden crack of noise at exactly the right moment. Herds turned more reliably. Predators scared off a kill site. It's a slow shift in the odds, slightly better hunts, a few more children surviving to adulthood, population nudged upward year after year. It starts quietly, but quiet is how most of the biggest changes in history actually begin. And here's where the real story unfolds. Not the explosions, the slow erosion of equality. At first, the powder probably belongs to everyone. Sharing is the default in these societies, and hoarding is socially punished. But not everyone can make it well. Getting the mixture right, drying it properly, handling it safely, that takes practice, and mistakes are dangerous. Over time, a few people get noticeably better at it than everyone else. They become specialists, and specialists start to accumulate quiet influence, not because they demand it, but because the group needs them. They get fed first, protected more carefully. Then conflict arrives. A territorial dispute. A bad winter where two groups compete for shrinking resources. And the powder's potential as a deterrent becomes obvious. In a world that has never heard anything like this sound, a single explosion could break an opposing group's nerve before anyone is seriously hurt. Ancient warfare ran almost entirely on morale. Whoever panics first loses. The powder makers, who were merely respected before, are now essential, and essential people start controlling access. Maybe not out of ambition, but caution. Either way, something that used to belong to everyone now belongs to a few, and that control becomes structural. The entire system that kept this band equal for generations depended on one condition. No person could back up a claim to authority with force others couldn't match, or simply simply walk away from. That condition no longer holds. Equality doesn't collapse in a season. It erodes across generations through children who grow up already accepting that the powder keepers occupy a different place in the world than everyone else. A system that held for hundreds of thousands of years finds a crack it was never designed to survive. And eventually, the powder enters conflict directly. Imagine being a hunter in a band of 30, facing a fight you've seen before, shouting, thrown spears, the moment one side decides retreat is cheaper than continuing. And then something happens with no precedent in your world. Not distant thunder from dark clouds, something immediate and close from a person standing right there. Smoke with a smell you've never encountered. Two people near you suddenly on the ground. The group with the powder might be seen as chosen by whatever forces control fire and sky, or it might just be fear and a desperate need to figure out how they did it. Either way, every reaction favors them. Retreat, deference, or an urgent desire to acquire whatever they have. That desire is the engine that drives everything that comes next. The knowledge spreads through capture, trade, imitation, and within a few generations, multiple groups have something like the powder. And a problem emerges that nobody saw coming. Making powder reliably needs charcoal in quantity. Far more wood burned than mobile hunter-gatherers ever needed before. Nearby forests thin, hunting grounds start producing less, and the success of the powder creates its own pressure for more land, more control over the places that have what's needed. That's how organization begins, toward permanent settlements where materials can be stored, specialists housed and fed, and someone tracking who has what and how much is left. Gunpowder's biggest effect might not be the explosions. It might be the slow administrative pressure that nudges humanity toward complexity thousands of years earlier than it actually happened. Agriculture is still the real engine. Gunpowder doesn't grow crops, but it might speed up the pressures that push societies toward farming and territorial control instead of just wandering through it. From here, the story could go two ways. Acceleration, where organizational demands push everything toward farming and cities faster than it actually happened. Or collapse, where an arms race never pauses for civilization to catch up, and every group with the powder becomes a threat to every other. The honest answer is probably both, in different places, at different times. We've already run something close to this, much later from a higher starting point. When gunpowder reached medieval Europe, it concentrated power in the hands of whoever could afford cannons and broke the social position of warrior elites who had structured society for centuries. Medieval Europe had centuries of agriculture, law, and government behind it, giving it some friction against the worst outcomes. Prehistoric humanity had none of that, just an enormously powerful tool dropped into an enormously fragile world. So picture him one more time. A hunter sitting by a fire 15,000 years ago. He's noticed something strange near the cave wall, a white crust the others walk past without a second glance. Out of curiosity, he scrapes some into the flames, along with the yellow mineral he saw near the hot springs. Nothing happens. He stirs the fire, adds more wood. Then it happens. The crack echoes off the walls. The people near him scramble backward. He stays still, heart pounding, breathing in smoke that smells like nothing he's ever smelled before. He has no word for what just occurred. He knows fire. He knows stone. He knows wind. This is none of those things. Maybe he's scared enough to never try it again. Maybe the others call it a bad spirit, and the band moves camp the next morning, and the knowledge dies in that one moment, on that one night. Or maybe he leans forward instead of back. History moves through huge, slow forces: geography, climate, disease. The spread of farming, forces no single moment can override. But sometimes inside those larger currents, a small accident opens a door that wasn't supposed to open yet. Sometimes history changes because of forces too big for any one person to affect. And sometimes it changes because one person, on one ordinary night, got curious about the wrong pile of dirt.